Our speaker today is working on level 2 of the Engaging Humor Path on the Connect with Your Audience project. The purpose of this project is to practice the skills needed to connect with unfamiliar audience. But since our club members are not an unfamiliar audience, she instead is tasked with delivering a 5 to 7 minute speech and connecting with you on a topic that is unfamiliar to the majority of you. She has a master's of education in career and technical education, CTE, and today we'll give you a brief overview of the topic. Please welcome distinguished Toastmaster and past district director Tina Gilliard with her presentation entitled When I Grow Up.
When I grow up in a year or two or three, I'll be happy as can be, like a birdie in the tree. When I grow up, there's a lot I want to do. I will have real dollies too, like the woman in the shoe. I want to be a teacher so that children can say, oh, teacher dear, the gang is all here with apples today. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests, that song was sung by Shirley Temple in her movie Curly Top many, many years ago. It was one of my favorite of Shirley's movies. For those of you young folks who don't know who Shirley is, she was a beautiful curly-haired little girl who danced and sang her way through over 30 movies in the 1930s. And I really identified with her. Now, truth be told, when Shirley was born in 1928, that was the same year my dad was born. And when she wrapped up her career in 1961, that was the year I was born. And so she was pretty much out of the picture before I began watching her movies, but I loved every single one of them, and Curly Top was my absolute favorite. By a show of hands, how many of you, when you were a child, said, when I grow up, fill in the blank? Raise your hand. Now keep your hand up if you are today what you said you were going to be when you were a child. Not very many of us. That is what happens. We make these assumptions when we're children about what we want to do when we grow up, and they sometimes change. Most of the time, we make these generic goals for ourselves. A lot of little boys have said, I want to be a doctor or a lawyer or a policeman. And a lot of little girls have said, I want to be a nurse or a teacher. Now, while the stereotypes have changed over the year, the non-specific nature of goals that we set as children hasn't changed. What I mean is, you might hear a child say, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. But you're not likely going to hear a child say, I want to be a pediatric oncologist when I grow up. And that's because when we're children, we haven't yet been exposed to the many career options that are available to us. It's almost impossible to steer our children in one direction or another without first sharing with them what the options are. And that, my friends, is what Career and Technical Education, CTE, is all about. It's about helping students from middle school through high school discover all of the career opportunities that are available to them and get exposure and even training in those areas. There are two parts to CTE. There's a part where high school students are allowed to actually go on college campuses and take college classes in a degree program of their choice and get credit both in the high school and at college. That's actually been around for a while. In Louisiana, in the 1970s, that was an opportunity for me, and I took advantage of it. I attended Kennedy High School during the day in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I went to Delgado and took interior design classes. And so that's been around for a while. But a new aspect of CTE is that we bring professionals in these different fields into the classrooms in the high schools, and they actually teach career-oriented classes, things like forensics, industrial engineering, you name it. And the children are actually exposed to these careers by professionals who actually do this for a living. And they are advised by these professional people. It's really an interesting and amazing program. And that's what made me so excited about majoring in that when I was finishing grad school. Now, when I did my research for my thesis in grad school, I discovered one flaw. And that was that a lot of states and a lot of high schools in those states actually push kids, they push them towards STEM careers. If you don't know, STEM is science, technology, engineering, and math. And so there's a big push for students to do STEM classes because that's where the need is. But in my opinion, it's extremely important to expose students to every opportunity that's out there for them career-wise. They have to know what options are available so that they can make a good choice that will actually stick. And Mike Rowe agrees with me. You might recognize Mike from the Discovery Channel's Dirty Jobs show. Mike says the flaw in our character is insistence on separating blue collar from white collar jobs and encouraging one form of education over another. He's a big advocate for CTE, and I studied a lot of his work when I was in college. So how do we even list all the job opportunities available, much less expose our children to them? That is where the career clusters come in. Now, before you roll your eyes and think, why did she put this graphic on a slide? I don't want you to read any of this. I just want you to get an image of what the career clusters look like. The small groups that you see in each of the colored areas are the career clusters, and they're broken down into categories. I want to zoom in just on one to give you a little feel for it. So we're going to look at the skilled and technical sciences that are on the bottom right. Under skilled and technical sciences, there are 4 different career clusters: transportation, distribution, and logistics, architecture and construction, manufacturing, and then STEM that I mentioned. And under each of those, there are career paths. And as you can imagine, under each career path, there are lots of career opportunities in those areas. Well, students might look at this and get overwhelmed too, just like you may have felt overwhelmed. So how do we help them narrow down their choices? That's another problem that I uncovered while I was writing my thesis. A lot of schools aren't equipped to do that, but the ones that are doing it right are actually providing their students with career cluster surveys or assessments that allow them to answer questions, and then the results point them to a specific career path or multiple paths to choose from. And so my word to you today is that you can help the children in your lives discover the careers that are available to them by pointing them towards career clusters and career cluster information. Because no matter whether you're 10 or 110, when you grow up, you're going to want to know what career to choose. Mr. Toastmaster.